Okay, people, we are back in, and I have gotten a lot done on this a couple of days ago. Um, so we are at the point of painting it. I've got the entire hull blocks removed, and I've already started painting or doing some of the texturing on the outside. So we are at a point of doing that, but I want to take a little bit of a side trip here because a CV like this is a very limited CV in regards to who's going to be able to use this. With the amount of resources it would take, this is going to take a group of people to be able to spawn this. Single individual, it would take, forget it. There's just too much time it would take on your part as an individual. Not only that, but a CV this size, look at the interior. You got a room for 100 people in there. So if you're not on a server with a group of people who don't want their own CVs, who want to just be crewmates, then it would work for you. But if you're an individual playing the game, this is not a CV that you're going to try spawning yourself. It would just not be possible or feasible. You'd be grinding forever trying to get all of the parts for this. It is a great CV. It works well and all of that. But what I've done here is brought a couple other. Now this is I believe this is a level 6 of the new game. Where are we here? Predator 2. Yeah, this is a level 15. Class 15 size class. So that's a huge one. Now we've got other ones that we've done, which you can see are far smaller and more feasible. Now this one, the Titan warship, you can do it with a single person, but it would take a lot of resources again to do this one. But the two that and these have all been taken out of mothballs. These were all put together by the developers way back early in the game and then mothballed. They just were totally given up on them. And they are good ships, I think. But the two that I specifically recommend if you're going to be a single player looking to get the resources yourself, the White Lightning, which is a fairly small one but has everything a single player would need in the game, as far as grow plots and everything else, and you can put, of course, all the weapons on here and so forth. This just gives you a little bit of everything in a very small CV, and it's much more feasible for a single player to have a CV this size. And if we look at the class size on it, the White Lightning, wait a minute, let me get over here. There we go. White Lightning, okay, is only a size class 2, but it's got everything that you need in a CV as a single player. So it's not all that complex to put together these raw materials or parts. That's what I would call more of a lower level. It's unlock level 15. By the time you get to level 15, you should have enough resources that you should have no problem getting yourself a CV like this. Again, for single player. Now the second one for a single player that I would recommend is, again, this was taken out of mothballs. And, this is the Phoenix Stalker that we took out of mothballs, and this is, again, got everything you need in a CV, and it's got places for HVs, it's got places for SVs on board. It's got everything you can need as a single player, even on a public server. You're running your own CV, you don't have a crew, etc. This is something that you could run on your own very easily. And it's a very simple, design to it. So it's not a complex CV. And the Phoenix Stalker is, let's go here. Oh, come on. The Phoenix Stalker is right here, and it's a size class of 3. So it's a little bit larger than the White Lightning. But again, it's something feasible. It's got an unlock level of 25. So, by the time you're at level 25, you can easily have these resources. And you got plenty of grow plots for growing food. You got your refrigeration. You got, everything that you need for a single player. But again, this is, now the Titan warship obviously is going to take a lot of resources. I mean, that's a big ship too. It's not quite as big as the Predator. If we look at the Titan warship, is right here. Okay, it's a size class 8, so it's going up there in size. And this would definitely, this is an unlock of 25. But look at the resources and so forth. And it's got an advanced core because of the fact of the CPU usage on this. We just could not get it down any lower than what we did. So we just put an advanced core in there. But again, that's, single player could do this, but how much would you really use something as a single player this size? I mean, you can't fly but more than one SV or HV as a single person. Now, if you had a crew on here, or a small crew, even like, I don't know, 4 or 5 people, then this would work for you. But again, this is not something I would recommend as a single player alone. And definitely not a ship this size, which is, a huge ship. You need a crew. People that don't want their own SV, that just want to work as a crewmate on an existing SV. This would work fine for, which is basically what we use it for. We've got about 50 people on and off that will be doing nothing more than just working as crew on here. I think we got like 10 or 15 people that just do work with the turrets and so forth, and we will have chairs in here eventually for them to sit on and open up the turrets and manually handle the turrets. And then we've got crew people that are filling ammo boxes, etc., and crafting things to keep all of the supplies, food, etc., for the crew. But it does take a crew on a ship like this. You're not going to do this as a single player very efficiently, and really not really get the full enjoyment of it as a single player. It's just too big of a ship. On this one, we're seeing that we're probably going to have to put an advanced core into it, because it's just no way we can get it down. I mean, you see our CPU now, it's at 31 million. I mean, we'd have to bring it down at least 21, and you look at RCs alone, we only have 17 in here, and that's already taken up 21 million. That's just on that alone. I mean, we'd have to strip this thing down, have absolutely nothing in it in order to bring that down to that. We just don't feel that they're doing very well in the way of how they're calculating things here, because there's just no way that you can get that down to 10 million, reasonably speaking. I mean, if I removed all the hardened steel, that would only give me 250,000 back, which is nothing compared to the 21 million we need. And so if you try taking everything out of here to bring it down to 10 million, you wouldn't even have a functional vessel. So basically what the developers are telling us here is they don't want us to have these large vessels in the game any longer. And they're making it so that it's not feasible to have them because of the way their calculations are done. So we're kind of reevaluating things right now as to regards to this ship. I mean, on our servers it's not a problem, but we could never release this publicly because it just would not be functional or feasible on most servers to bring this in. Even with an advanced core, with the CPU, block count, etc. We're going to keep it for our use, because this is our flagship right here. This is the mothership. This is the main one that we have in our fleet. Of course, we only have one of these. Right now in production or in use, we have 3 of the Titan. We have, I think we have a total of 8 ships in our fleet. And that's, that's still dealing with about a 60, let's see, what are we at? We're probably about 80 to 90 people between them all. And these are people that just don't want to run their own CVs, just want to be crewmates, so that works in that regard. But yeah, this is not a ship you're going to want for a single player. It's just not functional or feasible. I mean, you could, I suppose, use the console and cheat it in, but still, how much use would you really get out of this as a single player? Right? This is a ship that's made for being a main battle tank, that's made to be used by multiple people at one time. Uh, you know, we could put all of the guns and the turrets, etc., on manual and do that, but then you're losing a lot of immersion and playability. So I would strongly recommend that this is for somebody who now is on a server that can take a ship this size and bring a ship in this size that has a crew or of people to put the resources together, and also to be able to actually use the ship to its fullest capability. And that's not going to happen with, you know, a single player. So that's just kind of food for thought for those of you watching this video. You know, that this is not a ship I would recommend for a single player. This is made for a crew. You know, you see the food thing here alone. I mean, you look at this. We got grow plots on this alone. We have 36 grow plots. That's for a lot of people producing a lot of food. We probably got about 15 to 20 refrigerators to put all that food into. So, I mean, this is not for, you know, a single player does not need all of those things in there. So, I'm giving you a pretty good look at it here. I've replaced a lot of the glass so far. And of course we redid these so that they're all in complete covered. So they're a little more protected. But, and we built a thing down here. You see this black base, I guess you call it. And that's in order to bring these legs down. The largest or tallest legs are here. And to bring them in function with the belly of this, we had to bring this down in order for this to be so it can sit on the ground. But as you can see, it still floats. I don't know what's holding it up there, but something as small as, I don't know, a tree. I think this tree right here is what's holding it up. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. A CV that size with that weight, etc., is being held up by that little tree off the ground. Kind of crazy. Could be that rock too. I think that might, no, that's the upside of it. Yeah. So the physics still aren't totally fixed on this. They're way better than what they used to be. I can't jump mountains anymore with an HV the way I used to be able to do back in the early alpha stages of the game. But, and so they've done a lot of work on the physics. But it still needs some tweaking. I mean, it's, yeah, they're definitely, this thing is definitely not supposed to be floating. It should have landed or, you know, come down onto the ground. And I did start up the thrusters and actually hit the C key to bring it down, and this is as low as it would go. It's just something is holding it up off the ground, and I'm thinking it's probably that tree, because these are flowers and they don't really have any collision to them. So it could be that tree, and this is a, no, this is, yeah, I think this is a flower. Yeah, it's a flower, so that's not, there's no collision on the flowers. So they can't be holding it up. So it's got to be this tree right here. I think maybe I'll move it over to try and see if it'll go, because I think that tree right there is what's holding it up. So the rock here isn't doing it, I don't believe. No, it's outside the, yeah, it's outside the ship. So it's got to be that tree that's holding it up, which is okay right now because I got a texture the underbelly of this anyway, so it kind of works out okay for the moment. But yeah, it's not very realistic having something this size floating in the air like it is. Yeah, this definitely should not be, with all the thrusters off, it should not be sitting like this. So as you can see, it's all of the outside's been done with combat steel, and then it's got a second layer on the inside that of the hardened steel, so it's definitely can hold up to some battle. Yeah, it'll definitely do some damage, and of course when we finish this, we've got a little secret here that we do. We can put approximately, probably will put approximately 60 to 70 turrets on here. But when you look at the blueprint and so forth and the specs on it, those won't even show up. The AI won't be able to see those turrets. We have a way of hiding them from it. And we can actually do that in order to bring the CPU thing down. We can do that with refrigerators, we can do that with O2 tanks, and even some of the constructors we can hide. So we can bring the CPU count down considerably, just that little, I don't know if you call it a hack, a cheat, whatever you want to call it. It just gives us the ability to bring that CPU count down, because it definitely is way, way too high. But I can't see even now at 31. And we've got like 10, 12,000 less blocks on here than the original. So, there's no way we can bring this down to 10 million. We'd have to get rid of like 90% of everything that's on here, which would basically make it non-functional. The interesting thing is the flares are not taking up any CPU. That's kind of weird, because I mean they are a light source. So the rest of these, I don't see a reason. I don't see any problem with their calculations on all of these things. They seem reasonable. Furnishings, all of that. I think the problem I'm having would be probably seeing how the lights aren't too bad either, because they're only one per light, which isn't bad. And the extenders are taking up quite a bit of CPU in themselves, but they're also adding that 10 million. If we didn't have those, we'd be far less than that. So, yeah, it's the only way to do this. I mean, even if we got rid of the O2 stations, we saved 200. That's, it's just not. There's just no way we're going to be able to bring this down. The O2 tanks, we can get rid of, get those off of here. But I mean, even if we do everything here, cargo boxes, all of that, we're still not going to lower this. Yeah, there's just no way. Teleporter takes 20, full shield takes a lot. Warp drive you gotta have. And look at this on the turrets. That's why we're going to make them invisible, because that's 100,000 right there. Now thrusters we can't do anything about. We can't make those invisible. We haven't found a way to yet. Or the RCs, and the RCs are the big one right here. Look at that, 21 million just for 17. And this thing had close to 200, 300 of them, the original, but it was the T1s. Okay, so we brought this down to like an eighth, and we're still at 21 million. That's ridiculous. They need to change this number drastically, because 17 is barely steerable, maneuverable. And that's what basically determines your maneuverability, is right here in your RCs. We got our thrusters, so, if we tried to reduce those, we could reduce them, but I mean, look at, even if we add up all of the thrusters and so forth, we're not, we're at maybe 9 million. We need to get rid of 21 million, and the only way to do that is through the RCs, and if I bring the RCs down, even say to 7, I mean, you're just going to have the most sluggish CV in the fleet. That thing is like going to be like a whale out of water. There's no way. But all of this doesn't add up to much of anything. This is only a total of 869, so that's nothing. That's not really putting any drain on the CPU. It's this right here, the RCs. We bring that down much more. This thing is already sluggish as it is. Its turning ratio and so forth is extremely slow to turn. Now granted, it is a big RC. I don't expect it to turn as quickly as a smaller RC, a CV, or even an SV. I mean, I don't expect that. But got to have some maneuverability. I mean, so I think this is where they need to change the mathematics so that it isn't using so much CPU. It just doesn't make sense to us. But that's the way it is, I guess. But anyway, we'll cut this video out at this point, and like I said, we're starting the texture. I'm getting the texturing started here. We're gonna have flat black on the decks. Because of the overlap on some of these blocks, we're going to have to go one layer below them, because when you hit some of these, well, you'll see it right here, where it bleeds over onto the next layer. And, try to correct that. There's just no way to do it. If you texture this, it's going to texture this. And that's going to just look weird as the dickens. So we end up doing the entire second level below the deck in black. There's just no way around it until they fix that, which I don't see that ever happening at this point. Did something different here. Oh, I see what we did. Oh no, okay, that's the same. Anyway, that's about where we're at on this. I'm going into the texturing part now and replacing windows as I go. All of the thrusters and everything have been pretty well sunk in good enough that they're not going to be damaged too quickly. But yeah, we're going to definitely, this is going to be a ship that we're probably not going to release publicly. Simply because I can't see feasibly anybody being able to bring this into a public server or any kind of server situation. It's just too big of a ship. We like it, we know we can use it, and definitely is going to stay as our flagship CV, but yeah, it's sad that they kind of ruined it with the whole CPU thing. Until they do something about the RCs. And that's where the real problem is with the RCs. They corrected the mathematics on that, made it a little more reasonable so that they can bring that down. But yeah, that's where we're at, folks, anyway. So, like I said, start thinking maybe, about these ships. We'll be releasing these publicly once they're upgraded. There's a few things that need to be added. Teleporters and things like that need to be put on them to bring them up to spec, but we'll probably release these publicly. These we use as transport vehicles. The White Lightning we use as transport for crew and so forth from planet side. So these aren't really combat. We use as combat type vessels, but they could easily be made into combat, just not usually used for that. This one here we usually use as a cargo ship, because it has a lot of cargo bay space in the front. So we put a lot of cargo boxes on there and fill those up. And it works fairly well on a planet side as far as maneuverability and so forth. And it can protect itself pretty good from any kind of threat that's coming its way. And it can be used as a mobile base as well. This can, or the White Lightning, can be used as mobile bases. Very seldom do we bring the Titan into the planet, but it can handle it on the surface on the planet pretty well. It's got good maneuverability, etc. So, but it's not something that we do on a regular basis. Usually we keep it in space. This is primarily in space, and very, very extremely seldom will we bring it into a planet, simply because of its size, and even with all of the RCs, etc., maneuverability is not all that great with something this size. In space it works fine. It's got good maneuverability and everything, but definitely not something that you want to. This is definitely a space vehicle. So, and they got a lot of work to do on the inside, obviously. They haven't been able to get to it lately very much. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's one step closer towards. Now leave a comment if this is a ship that you're thinking you would like publicly. If we see enough demand publicly for this, then we'll release it publicly either on Nexus or Steam. But I really can't see feasibly that many people, if any, are going to really want something this size and be able to, they're going to have their own server that can allow something this size. So that's what it's basically going to take. Anyway, we'll let you go with that, and hope you enjoyed the video and learn a little something and give you some thoughts, and leave some comments regarding those other CVs, and any other comments. We'll look at them and respond accordingly. See suggestions we can make, etc., or suggestions you can make that might improve this ship or any other out there. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and come back a few days and we'll have another one up. Thanks.